Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Javier, and I'm a freaking psychopath. That's right. Metaphorically speaking, of course. And of course, you can ask friends of mine, you can ask business partners, you can ask people who've worked with me in the past, and they know that I'm a psychopath. And what do we mean by this? Well, when I work on something and when I'm truly focused upon something, I can get so focused on it, so dedicated to it, through this modality of flowing my focus, and that, of course, manifests in thoughts and actions, and I can psychopathically and maniacally focus upon a project until it manifests very quickly in my experience. Of course, people looking at this from the outside will say, well, this man's just dedicated and he's a very hard worker. Of course, as you know, I don't believe in work. I don't believe in hard work. I don't believe in effort. But what I do believe in is that when you can either increase the desire or decrease the resistance or the effort, the thing flows to you very quickly. And then on the outer, it looks like you're doing a bunch of stuff. It's what we've referred to in a previous video, a previous short, as maniacal focus. And in this video, I want to go specifically into this modality. Now, psychopathic focus or maniacal focus is not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be for even the same person with a different project. It's not going to apply to all of your projects. So this is vibrational, this is a path and a modality and a process that I want to basically explain to you here, show you how to do it, and see if you get excited about it. If you're excited about implementing it, then it might be for you. So, what do we mean here? What I'm talking about being a psychopath, you sort of have to be a psychopath to flow your focus on something and your passion to something in such a way for a short period of time that you exclude focus on everything else so that you can move forward on that project because you love it. And if you look at all of the great men and women throughout history in any pursuit, whether that be billionaires, whether that be Elon Musk, whether that be great generals like Alexander and Napoleon, whether that be great spiritual masters like the Buddha, like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Jesus alayhi salam, like Ramakrishna, all of them did have maniacal and psychopathic focus. What would be considered by the modern man who's asleep as a psychopath? Because what we've been raised to do from birth in our society, well, first, of course, we're born into this family hierarchy, and then we're taught from an early age to follow illogical orders, so to speak, without reason. We're just taught to submit to authority and the most illogical of commands without reason. Then we go to the state-sponsored school institutions, and that's even worse. You want me to come to school at what time? They want us to get out of bed at an ungodly hour, and of course you have to get out of bed and you have to rush and get ready for school. And then you have to work on what they want you to work on, and you have to follow the bell. And God knows what they do now, because now it's just... it makes what my generation went through look like a walk in the park, because they're basically locked in a prison, so to speak. But basically, ladies and gentlemen, the prison grid is training us to focus on what others want us to focus upon. And I can't go into details here, but I do work in the pharmaceutical industry. And today, I was listening to a parent talk about how, and of course you can't say anything, you have to nod and so on and so forth. They were talking about how the child was diagnosed with ADHD. And They were talking about how the teacher said, of course no names or any context is mentioned here, and I would never do that, but they were talking about how the teacher said, well, he can focus on things that he wants to, but we can't get him to pay attention and focus on things that we want him to. And I was thinking to myself, that kid's intelligent. Of course, they want to medicate him because in this society we're taught that no, you cannot focus on what you want to focus on. You have to focus on the bogus propaganda that's being taught by the prison grid. And then, of course, the children are medicated. And then when they graduate from this prison structure, they're then turned over to private tyrannies where they have to go and still follow the bell and still be subjected to economic exploitation where the boss says basically, do as we say or starve and so on and so forth, and focus on what we want to focus on. That's why I created this channel and this modality, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to help as many people as possible free ourselves from the prison structure of the prison grid, and the reason for this freedom is to be able to do what we came here to do, and that is to focus on what we want to focus on. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You are to free yourself from this societal structure which says that you must focus on someone else's desires, and you must love yourself enough, and you must have enough self-respect and self-esteem, which is also a beautiful thing that we teach in this channel. Ego is not the evil that some spiritual teachers make it out to be. It is a beautiful thing when harnessed correctly. But you have to be selfish enough to be able to focus on your own ends and your own desires. That's why we teach rapid lifestyle transformation, because what we want you to do is we want you to be able to free up your schedule and free up your space and your time so that you will have the mental and spiritual space to focus upon that which you want to focus upon, which is why you came. You are divinity in a human form. I know the educational system, the organized religion system, the familial hierarchy system, and the entire gamut of the prison grid, the prison web, has blotted this out of your head. How dare you say that you mean something? How dare you say that you are able to pursue your own desires, and how dare you praise the ego? You're supposed to subordinate your desires to the Rockefellers, or excuse me, I probably shouldn't mention names. You're supposed to subordinate your desires to Kraft or to Philip Morris. You're not supposed to have your own desires and to implement those. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why I created this channel and I created this modality. So, where are we going here? You can manifest the majority of what you want, ladies and gentlemen. You can manifest the generality of a structure to begin taking steps into freedom in your life very quickly. I say within 6 months to a year, no matter what your financial status is. If you're homeless, I'd give it about a year. If you're in debt and middle class, lower middle class, I'd give it 3 to 6 months. If you apply the focus that I train you to in this channel, you can within 3 months to a year be completely free from the prison grid and pursuing your unique and specific desires and running your life the way that you want it, and having all of this emotional energy freed from the pendulums, which are these energy centers and energy vampires which are feeding on our energy, and you can create the life of your dreams. I'm not saying you're going to be a millionaire within a year, although that is absolutely possible. It can happen within a day if you actually dedicate yourself 100% to these modalities, because you create your reality. That's what we're trying to teach you. But I'm saying that you can have the basis of freedom and not have to go to work at an office full time. You may still be doing some things on the side and so on. But you can get to where you are basically have a base of freedom within a year. And certainly within 5 years, you can have attained any economic goal which you wish to attain. And we're giving you the steps in this channel to do that. We have a lot of specific videos about that. We're also going into law of assumption, law of attraction. Why are we going into law of assumption and law of attraction here? The majority of my work as a coach and mental focus for the specific and directed purpose of getting you free from the prison grid and rapidly transforming your life. I have to convince you that you can do it. I have to sort of bypass and short circuit. This is something we're going to talk about in this video. I have to short circuit, in many cases, decades of programming which told you that you're not good enough and that you're not worthy to live the life that you wish and desire and that you cannot do it. That's why we talk about the basic fundamentals. But with William James, all of these philosophies and modalities, we're not simply discussing them for entertainment value. I'm not here to entertain you, although I probably will. And that's an added bonus. I'm here to get you mentally free so that you'll take massive action on the modalities that we present so that you can get free, ladies and gentlemen. It is a psychological revolution that we are spreading on this channel. So, my topic today, I want to turn you into a psychopath. Of course, people are going to distort this, and this is metaphorically speaking, okay? This means that you're going to be someone who, when the situation calls for it, can focus down in a laser-like fashion so that you can hit a specific target within a very short period of time. We're talking about within 3 days. So, what am I going to teach in this video? I'm going to teach you how to take a goal or an intention that you have a vague idea on, and it's either a new one, or it could be one that you've had for years, but you've been procrastinating and could not move forward on it because you have so much resistance. You have so many contradictory beliefs about it that you can't have any movement on that. Maybe you've tried. And I want to get you to a manifestation that is going to satisfy you that you're moving forward in that desire within a 3-day time period. And in many cases, ladies and gentlemen, this happens within a few hours. But we're going to give it 3 days. And 3 days is a very symbolic number, both in the Bible and in the Quran. The Bible talks about the temple being destroyed and rebuilt in 3 days. It talks about Jesus being risen from the tomb in 3 days. The great Jose Silva of the Silva method, I was reviewing his materials, and he said when you're seeking an answer on something, you contemplate that in the alpha state, you go within, and you shall have an answer in 3 days. So, first of all, why would you take this methodology? Because it seems like, and even on some topics it exhausts me. It's like, I'm not going to give maniacal focus to this topic. And in many topics you should not. This is only if you feel inclined to do it, because of course there's nothing that you have to do. There's no process that you have to follow. You have to realize that. Because you are the divinity. You are the process. And you're simply here playing with forms, and this is just another way to focus your energy and to play with forms. So this is a path. But why would you do it? You would do it, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a way to get motion forward in a very quick amount of time, in a very small amount of time rather, quickly. And this is a way to convince yourself that you can do it. And in those 3 days of maniacal, psychopathic focus, you can short-circuit a lot of beliefs and programming that have been embedded for years without having to directly work on those beliefs. Because in this process, we're going to show you exactly how to get these results utilizing both right brain and left brain by maniacal focus. And I want to get rid of some of the objections to this, because a lot of law of assumption coaches that I know are going to say, even though they themselves do this, they're going to say, Javier, if they're not ready for it, and it might be true, you might not be ready for this. And if you're not ready for it, don't watch this video. But if you're ready for it and you're on that advanced manifestational level that you want to take your manifestation up a notch, keep watching this video. It's going to be a relatively longer form video, and it's going to be very instructive. But a lot of people in the law of assumption community will say, well, this is work, and you talk about a lot in your video how you should not do effort and hard work. And of course, we made a video about work and action a few weeks ago, and I will link that, or a few days ago rather, and I will link that in the description. First of all, there's no contradiction between hard work and letting it come to you. They're both the same modality because there's no duality, ladies and gentlemen. Get this. We made this scale of being, and we're going to publish this on our website that I've been maniacally working on. It's going to be out within the next few weeks. It's going to be completely released. It's going to be a game changer. But we're going to put this chart on our website. And I did explain this in an early video on this channel. But there's a scale with divinity at the top and physicality at the bottom. And it explains how divinity is the only true existent, but it split itself into observer and observed in order to have the experience of multiplicity, because that was possible. And in true divinity, all potentialities must be exercised. This is very philosophical, but we can explain this in another video. But basically, there's no contradiction because there's no duality. So hard work does not contradict doing nothing, because even doing nothing is an action. It's all about the emotional and energetic quality of that action. And we're going to teach you how to get into the energetic quality, how to get into the excitement of this acceleration forward. So, why wouldn't you do this? Well, the worst case scenario is that you've wasted time for 3 days, but you haven't. Let's say you fail completely at the end of this and you get no movement forward. It's possible if you're operating on the physical, because vibrationally you're going to make leaps and bounds, and it's going to come to you in an unexpected way anyway. For example, you might work on your business idea for these 3 days with maniacal focus, and you might get the next step, and then your Uncle Jay may send you a check for $1 million to say, hey, nephew, I love you, and here's a check for $1 million. Well, you didn't get the money from that business, but that's the way it works, ladies and gentlemen. You get the money or whatever result that you're trying to attain in a way that you don't expect. But you have to enjoy the process, and you have to drop any expectation of the end. So, let's say you fail. Well, you're going to vibrationally move leaps and bounds, so you're going to get that a lot quicker, whether you know it or not. On the purely physical level, even putting all of these, the law of assumption, law of attraction, to one side and just concentrating on the physical level, if a scientist develops an apparatus or some kind of technology and he runs an experiment, but the technology doesn't work as he hypothesized it would work at the beginning of the experiment, is he upset? Maybe a government scientist, but I'm talking about a true scientist here. Well, the true scientist isn't going to be upset because why? He has more data now of what doesn't work, so that then when he goes to do the next experiment, he has more knowledge. So not only are you going to increase your vibrational resonance with what you want, because the tools and techniques that we're going to lay out here are going to raise your vibration almost instantly and around this, and you're going to bypass a lot of negative beliefs. We call it short-circuiting beliefs, but you're going to make great strides in the physical aspects of that and in the worldly aspects of that, because you're going to make advances in your knowledge. So this is multidimensional, ladies and gentlemen. And let's say that too fails. Let's say you don't enjoy the process. And let's say your vibration actually the gap increases. That means you went down the emotional scale and you're vibrating worse around your desire. Great. You know that process doesn't work, and you can stop the process anytime you want. Just because you committed to 3 days doesn't mean you have to do the 3 days. You could do it for 1 day and say, you know what? I'm not resonating with this. Take the next 2 days to go to the beach. And if the vibrational gap has increased, ladies and gentlemen, that means that you've got a more detailed picture now of what you want and what you don't want. And now what you've got waiting for you in that vibrational escrow is actually bigger, as Abraham Hicks explains. And when you decrease resistance just a little, you get a lot more. So this is a win-win. So I hope I've convinced you to give this methodology a try, this methodology of maniacal focus. So let's get right to the nitty-gritty of this process of maniacal focus here. And the first thing, guys, is that if you possibly can, I'm going to need you to take 3 days off. I'm going to need you to take 3 days, if you possibly can. Clear all of your commitments. Do go to an office if you wish, or do this in any space where you're not going to be disturbed. Now, these 3 days, I would not recommend that you spend it with family members or friends. I would recommend that you be alone for the majority of the time during these 3 days. And for those of you that absolutely can't, that there's just no way, well, then you're on that timeline and you're on that film roll of there just being no way, and that's fine. You can do many aspects of this, small, M-I-N-I, many aspects of this maniacal focus in the crevices and extra hours and minutes of your day. But it's very important that you be alone for the majority of this time. A lot of you are going to say, well, Javier, it's really hard for me to take 3 days off. I can't just take 3 days away and not communicate a lot with my family. Take 3 days off. Well, how important is this to you, ladies and gentlemen? I'm talking about taking 3 days for you. I'm talking about taking a personal retreat. It's for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is not for the prison grid. We dedicate the majority of our time to working for people who frankly don't give a damn about us, and if we were to pass away, they would probably have our positions filled within a few days. The system does not care about you, ladies and gentlemen. It uses you as an accoutrement to feed off your energy, ladies and gentlemen. You're simply a piece of coal, basically, energizing their pendulum, powering their engine. So how important is it, ladies and gentlemen? How much do you love yourself? Do you love yourself enough to push the world back for 3 days? And of course, if you can't do it for 3 days, try to do it for 1 day. But you've got to take some time for yourself. I know a lot of friends now that they're married and have families, and so am I, by the way. But they have not dedicated any time to themselves in 15 years. They do have time off and vacations, but that's all consumed with now working on the vacation. Okay, well, we have to go here, and I have to shuffle my wife and children here. But they don't take any time to just be alone. And solitude is very important in this modality. In fact, we encourage you to take periods of solitude every day, at least 30 minutes to an hour, where you can actually solitude. All of the great business coaches, even all of the secular teachers of this material, talk about this. So that's the first thing. You need to take 3 days to be able to apply this psychopath and maniacal focus. Now, What are you going to do with this time? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to dedicate all of this time to the process of manifestation, and it doesn't differ in any modality. This is simply a way to actually do it more slowly, and what you're going to do is you're going to be accelerating this process of manifestation. Because what is manifestation? If we were to discretely analyze it, and this is left brain analysis, but it's a good framework to have. Basically, it is desire plus resistance equals the manifestation. And basically what we do in the workaday world is we go and we try to get things done. And we work and we move things around no matter how we feel. We go and we dedicate that time, we get things done. And that does have some benefit to it. Because how does the athlete work? Well, he plays hurt. He goes and puts in the time every single day. But what we teach in our methodology of manifestation is it's not that work that he's putting in. It's the mental focus that allows him to do. He's basically practicing focus. So in manifestation, what we're doing, here's the basic essence of manifestation in a nutshell. You focus on the thing that you want until you feel a negative emotion. Then you stop and you try to focus on it from another angle. And then you focus on it again, and then you feel bad, and then you stop and you try to focus on it at another angle. Basically, you keep hitting and hitting it, and you're basically assailing the fortress in its weak points. This is just a metaphor here. But you're hitting it, and you're going about it in ways that don't have pockets of resistance. Therefore, you're able to get around that resistance and get to your desire. And the very important thing is, and this is all integral, that you enjoy the process. The whole point of manifestation is that you don't have to implement some process that's either pushed on you from the outside or something that you think you have to do. You don't have to pay any price. Because manifestation is all ease. That's right. When you start taking effort, whether inner or outer, then it becomes something else. It becomes work. And we were not sent to this earth to work. And tomorrow we're going to be having our Sunday service, and we're going to be talking about this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be hitting this issue of sonhood versus slavehood and what the different modalities and different paradigms are in that. But we were not sent here to be servants. We were sent here as sons, as inheritors. And this is, by the way, taught about in all three religions. This is not exclusive to Christianity. Islam and Judaism have very prominent motifs that talk about this. But so our specific way of manifesting from the spiritual to the physical is a way of absolutely no work and no effort. What does that mean? All these spiritual teachers, and I just got done with I was just looking at a business course for spiritual entrepreneurs, and I was hoping to get some of his points of views on business, but basically they were heavily in on you've got to change your beliefs. But ladies and gentlemen, when you try to change your beliefs, unless you enjoy that, if you enjoy that, have at it. But if you're spending a lot of time trying to change your beliefs, that's effort, that's work. Well, you might as well just go to your 9-to-5 job and do what your boss says, and then you can also align with that. And that's the other aspect of this. You can align with anything and then make that manifestation by making yourself enjoy it. It's just the harder way to go about it. The whole purpose of the spirituals have things come to you effortlessly. So, this whole modality is about, and what I was talking about, I might have gotten off on a tangent here, but the whole point of this is that you're going to be spending all of your time, your working time, and this is probably, it's going to be in short spurts, because what we recommend for you to do is do 20 to 30 minutes of work and take a 10-minute break. Then do 20 to 30 minutes of your work on this, and we mean the work of this 3-day focus, and then take a break. You don't want to just work through unless you feel inspired to do that. The Spirit may run through you. You may get into flow, and you may do a 4 hours without pause, and that's perfectly fine. That's good, but it is all about getting into flow. And the more of these 3-day maniacal focus sessions you do, the better you're going to get at this, and the more flow is going to come through you. So the whole point is you're going to keep hitting your desire and hitting your desire and hitting your desire, but you're going to move around the resistance, and you're going to develop that muscle, and intuition and your inner guidance is going to guide you to ways of focusing on that desire that are going to short circuit or bypass your resistance. And that's the main point of this maniacal focus, is actually the main point of all the techniques that we go into in this channel. You're short circuiting or bypassing that resistance. Because as Abraham Hicks, the great spiritual teacher, talks about, you can do calibrating and you can do journaling to get around your blocks. And in fact, we recommend you to do that on certain prominent ones. Like, for example, if you have a block for doing this 3-day maniacal focus, it's so liberating to do it. We'd recommend that you maybe try to change that belief and say, you know what? And you can do it by diminishing the importance. It doesn't really matter what's going to happen these 3 days. The worst case scenario is I'm going to get 3 days off and I'm going to spend it on a topic that I enjoy. So allow yourself to do that and love yourself enough to do that. So the first aspect of this is that in the morning of that first day, we want you to get energetically prepared. And there's a great way to do this that Peter Sage talks about, and that I do this all the time before a lot of projects, is that you summon that Taurus energy. When your heart and mind are in alignment and you have those endorphins spreading, there's a Taurus energy net. This is actually proven in physics, and there's illustrations of this, that surrounds your body. It's an energetic web. And that basically allows you to get into flow very quickly. And a way to do it is you can get into an alpha state. You put your, and we've illustrated this in some videos. You basically look up to the horizon, you close your eyes, you take 10 deep breaths, just like the Wim Hof breathing method. Then you can put your hand on your heart and you can say, I am in maniacal focus. I am in maniacal focus. I am in maniacal focus. And you can keep repeating this, or you can repeat any of these mantras that give you energy, like, I have a lot of energy, or I am amazing. And then after you do this, I already feel a certain amount of endorphins, and I feel driven now, or driven's not the right word, but I feel receptive to any good, and I feel that I can focus on anything, and I can have that energy flow through me. So do this before any session. We'd recommend that to start, you do it in 20-minute spurts, or 30 minutes maximum. Unless, like I said, you feel driven by the Spirit to continue with more time, and then of course that's flow, and don't even get in the way of that, because that's flow. So, the first thing I recommend you do, of course, is you have your desire. And from other videos, we know how to get into the state of that desire. You should start doing that immediately, whether or not you take this 3-day maniacal focus. Because it's getting into the state of the desire that is eventually going to manifest that to you on the physical. But here's the caveat. The caveat is you can't get into state trying consciously to manifest that on the physical, because that's force and that's applying. No, what you do is you get into state and you just enjoy that state and you see yourself as surrounded by what you want. So how do you get into state? Well, we've recommended that you make a letter representing your desire. So for example, let's say it's a business. So you can write the letter B and you can surround that by squiggly lines which represent the energy fields, the magnetic fields surrounding that letter. And it's like, this is what I do in my spiritual journal often. And this is adapted from Dr. Joe Dispenza's process. So there's my state letter. And so what you do is you look at, then you want to list basically some emotional aspects of that and some physical aspects of that. So the physical aspects, let's say I want to generate $100,000 a year for my business. I want to work with people that I love, and I want to be able to choose the people that I work with. And I want to be focusing on things that I'm interested in all day, and I want complete control over my schedule. So you write those. And then you write some emotional aspects. How would it feel if I were now surrounded by that? And then you use your imagination, ladies and gentlemen. You close your eyes and you just imagine yourself right into that. So I see myself right now working on a project that I love. It's so interesting to me. It's a financial project, and I'm analyzing this company, and I'm bringing to bear both my right and left brain in this, and I'm just analyzing it. And you know what? I have people I have a financial person who I can call and ask any question that I want. He's collaborating with me. I have an accountant, and I have a web developer who's dealing with the technology. And I know that I have a good relationship with these ladies and gentlemen, and that we have a good rapport. And now I'm not asking how am I going to do this. I'm just feeling myself right into that. And ladies and gentlemen, you can use images, you can use words, you can use some concept of a combination of both. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it to where when you think of this letter, you immediately associate that with the state, and then your subconscious mind does all the imagining and self-talk. And so now I can just tell you when you're in line in the supermarket, get into the state of B, business, and you can just snap into that state. And now you're surrounded by the feelings and by the whole context, what we call on this channel, of being in that state. So, do that now. Practice yourself into that. Even while you're working at your day job, you can get into that state as many times as you can. And then all of these processes, including this 3-day process, will be just for fun. And you won't feel that you need to implement any. Because if you feel that you have to do it, ladies and gentlemen, that's becoming just work, and then that works against you in this modality. And ladies and gentlemen, this is becoming a very long form video. This is almost going to be a course. But I think there's going to be many people who are not going to watch this video. I know that. But I do feel inspired to get this information out there in the full form. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to release this video tonight, in the long form, but then I'm going to separate it into parts and release each of the part as a self-contained part, so at least someone can benefit from a part of it or watch the 3 parts in sequence, because I know this longer video is going to overwhelm people, but that's sort of the trade-off. But anyway, so you've got your state, your end state. Now what are we going to do the first 20 minutes of our 3-day retreat? Our 3-day maniacal psychopath focus. So, what we're going to do in the first 20 minutes is we're going to do Chat GPT. That's right. Now, a good friend of mine, spiritual teacher, Zara Mehun, loves Chat GPT, and she just put a post on Facebook about how this is like her constant companion, and it is very interesting. Although I think there's a lot of hype to it, I basically think it's just a glorified version of Google. It gives you information quickly, and it's going to be very useful. And I have tried it. It's very interesting. It makes some mediocre cover letters and so on. And of course, it can write articles depending on how good you are. Because basically now, a journalist won't have to write articles, but she will still have to make the arrangements and do her own work on it. So it's basically just a longer form of letters and words, because letters and words are given in a language. Basically what we do is we arrange the letters and the words. Now with ChatGPT, whole passages are going to be given to us, And we just have to arrange that. So I don't think there's going to be a huge difference. But how are we going to use ChatGPT? And of course, it's going to call maybe for actually using the platform of ChatGPT to help you out. We can make videos on this. But what's even better than ChatGPT? Well, your inner being, your right brain, is the all, has access to the all, not only what was published by mankind, but what was published by different creations, maybe the jinnis or other species, and we won't go into that. But it has the vibrational resonance of the entire universe at its disposal. So do you want ChatGPT? Here is your ChatGPT, and it costs about 88 cents. This is your journal. So what I want you to do now, if you should have your idea of what you want clear, because you should have gone into state. But if you don't have that, use this time to clarify it. And you can ask yourself, what do I want? I know I want an income. And by the way, you don't need a business for an income. Your income is coming to you from the field. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to have a business. We give an example of a business in this modality because business is fun, and de facto every aspect of your life is going to turn into a business, because a business is simply a flow of energy, and it's a way to divide it, it's a way to look at it. But don't think you have to have a business. You can just get checks in the mail. You can. Of course, a lot of people have beliefs against that, but you can. You don't have to dictate where your good is going to come from, but you need to know what it is that you want. So let's say you want a business, just to simplify this, but you don't know what that is. Well, you ask your ChatGPT, which is your right-brained platform. You ask yourself in your journal, what do I want? And then you just meditate and you start receiving those answers, because you don't have a rush. You don't have to go back to work now because you've taken these 3 days off. You have time. But let's say you know what you want. You have a business idea and you know what you want. So you go to your ChatGPT and you say, okay, let's say I want a business selling tacos. I'm just making this as simple as I can. I don't really know how to sell tacos. I don't know how the first thing about starting. I know how to cook them, but how am I going to sell it? Who am I going to sell it to? And now, this is the other duality, because what we tell you in getting into state is never ask about the how, because the how will paralyze you. But now, you have this time of focus, and now's the time to ask yourself how, because basically you're not asking your finite mind how. You're asking your chat GPT. You're asking the universe. And another way to ask this, if you have resistance to the how, because some people have resistance to the how. I know if it's something that I have no idea about, I sometimes have resistance to it because this is going to be overwhelming. Of course it's not. You have to take it in steps. But ask yourself either, okay, I'm now surrounded by the circumstances. Do I remember how I got here? And then just write whatever comes to you. Or you can ask yourself, what is the path to this that I love and that's going to be the path of least resistance? Can I see any aspects of that? Because as we went into in a previous video, the path is a desire also. So now you're not asking how, you're asking for the development of the path. And then you just sit and you allow the answers to come, ladies and gentlemen. You write them down, you free write them, you journal them. And for those of you who think, Javier, you're crazy and this is woo-woo, and this is not accurate, I'm going to put the link to a video in the description that was done by, I believe his name's Vishen Lakshmi of the Mind Valley Institute. He had an interview with one of the wealthiest men in Asia, a tech billionaire. And he describes his journaling process of he basically sat down in a cafe and asked himself, how am I going to start this billion-dollar conglomerate? And he got the blueprint from there, and that's what spurred his starting. So This is the process that many successful people use to do it. And the answers that come to you are going to be unique. And you have to, when your left brain comes in and tries to introduce structure at this early stage, you've got to say, okay, you've got to consider that, but just keep writing. And this is basically what you do for the primary stages of these processes for the 3 days. You ask yourself, how am I going to do it? And the whole point, ladies and gentlemen, is when your mind wanders off, no, say, I'm going to focus on B. I'm focusing on the business. And you bring your focus back. Of course, lateral thinking is also good, and you've got to give yourself periods for that. So, within a few hours, you should have a sort of a small blueprint of how you can start small. So, let's say I came up with my taco business. I'm going to open a physical restaurant, but before I do that, I want to start a catering company so that I can test it. Now all you've got to do is say, okay, now what's the first step to starting my catering company? Well, the first step is going to be I've got to cook some meals, and I've got to take pictures of them and just post them on social media. And I need to have a website or at least a Facebook page. I need to have some form of transportation. I can use my car to start out with. And I need to have some pricing. So now you've got all this. This is within maybe a few short hours. Now what do? Now you go to the work. You convert to the work-a-day and you say, you know what? I'm going to have all of my stuff set up today. And you actually go now and you start taking the steps. And this is what we call the Blitzkrieg Strategy. You're not doing a lot of research at this point. I don't want you to do a lot of research. If you have questions, you can look at the actual ChatGPT. Or you can look at Google. But I want you to do very quick research that gives you a concrete action step. And look at it as an open book test, because what paralyzes a lot of us from doing our projects is we think we have to actually memorize all the information. No, we don't. You can get like 2 or 3 books, you could download them for free on the internet or get them, use them as reference, and then just proceed forward. Because right now the failure's not going to be too bad. Right now we haven't invested any money, although we're going to figure out how much money we need in the beginning stages. We've already determined that we're not going to buy a physical building yet, although you might. This is just an example according to unique circumstances. But we may have to buy some of the equipment to store the food and to cook the food and so on and so forth. We need to buy the ingredients. So I'm going to build the website. If I don't know how to build a website, I'm going to damn well, and then tomorrow, my second day, I'm going to go and learn how to build a website. And you can do that within a few hours to build a basic website. Or maybe I don't even need a website, I'll just do it on Facebook. And you let all this stuff develop, but what you're shooting for is concrete steps that you can take immediately, and you're not going to get bogged down in research. You can research, but I want you to always tie it back to implementing a very simple action step. So within 1 to 2 days, you can have your stuff set up. By the 3rd day of applying this focus, you can have your first sale, ladies and gentlemen. I've done it. You can have your first sale within the 1st day, certainly within the 3rd day. This is just an example here. So I do coaching calls, ladies and gentlemen. They are life-changing, and I can basically take you step by step. I can sit down with you and show you some exact steps on doing this. And we're exposing some of these in this video. We're explaining some of these, but I can give you steps according to your specific and individual business situation. Based on my years of research, based on my years in my own business and in consulting, I can give you the steps to do that. This is just a simple example. So, you're going in 20-minute spurts. You're dedicating an entire work day for 3 days. Of course, you get a lunch break, you get breaks and all that. But your goal is to have a physical manifestation of that. To have that whole modality completely set up in a way that's satisfactory to you within the 3 days. And then have that in autopilot so that the next steps will develop within a very short period of time. It's what we call also the Blitzkrieg Strategy. And it's what we call setting up beachheads. So that then you have habits and pendulums, so to speak, and institutions in place. You have the infrastructure in place. You've actually cooked the food, or whatever it is you want to do. You've opened your currency trading account. You've sent that email about that speaking engagement that you've determined that you needed to do. You have it all very well planned out, and you've set up the institutions. Now, before we depart here, here's the main caveat for this. The main caveat is that you have to be flexible. You have to not get attached to a certain modality. And you have to realize that a modality can fail, and that's just fine, because that has nothing to do with the completion of your outcome. Your outcome is already complete. And I also want you to take a lot of time during these 3 days to contemplate being in your state. Be in your state. So, it's the interweaving of all of these steps and modalities that you're going to take these 3 days, and you're going to focus on it like a maniac. And by the end of those 3 days, you're going to be vibrationally so in tune with that desire that you're going to know that you know that you know that it's already unfolding in the physical. And ladies and gentlemen, do this with desires that you've had for a long time, that you still desire, and that you have no movement forward on. Because sometimes the only thing that you need to do to get something moving is to shake it up. These 3 days of maniacal focus, I promise you, will shake it up. So try it. Use your journal, which is your chat GPT. Tap into your right brain, and of course use your left brain also to focus that. Get your heart and mind in alignment. That's the other thing. By the end of this 3 days, you should feel positive emotions towards your desire, and you should be able to get pretty specific about your desire, and then it's just smooth sailing from there. I promise you. So ladies and gentlemen, do this. Take this 3-day maniacal focus. Be a psychopath for 3 days, and I promise you, when your family and friends see the results, they're not only going to forgive you, they're going to want to partake in some of them. And of course, you are going to be generous to all of them. So thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot more interesting videos coming this weekend about the nitty-gritty of rapid lifestyle transformation. We're going to be applying some of these steps to these modalities. In just a few short hours, I have a coaching call, and then I'm going to be doing our Sunday service where we're going to be going into the metaphysical meanings of Scripture. You don't want to miss that. Please subscribe and like to our channel so that you can get alerts for our daily videos of great value. You're not going to want to miss that. I am doing coaching calls where you think this video was powerful? Wait until you do a coaching call with me where I take you specifically into more aspects that we didn't have time to cover in this video, but that can rapidly transform your life in a short period of time. Take days and weeks to do what it took some people years to achieve, including yours truly, by learning the hard way. You don't have to do it alone. I'm here to coach you and to dedicate myself to your rapid lifestyle transformation and your divine success. So until very soon, just a few hours, this is Javier. I really appreciate you watching. We appreciate you sharing the videos. We appreciate you commenting on the videos so that we can get this information out to as many people as possible. So until very soon, with great love, with great appreciation, with great joy, this is Javier, and I'll see you tomorrow.